And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace. We're brought to you by our friends over at Trust and Will. You know, juggling a million plans shouldn't mean your future doesn't make your to-do list. Trust and Will turns estate planning from, you know, when I've got time, into a quick, straightforward process, ensuring you're protecting your family's future today. That's why our family uses Trust and Will. Not like we have a bunch of free time, but it's what we use for our estate planning, and they have been phenomenal for us the last couple of years. Very customizable, easy-to-use website that is also very simple to navigate. Plus, all your information and documents are securely stored with bank-level encryption. Easily share all your estate planning documents as well with trusted friends and family with the new shared document access feature, so your loved ones know their role in your future. Each will or trust also state-specific, legally valid, customized to your needs, as I just said. So add some peace of mind to your future with Trust and Will. Go to trustandwill.com/Deace. You'll get 20% off. That's 20% off at trustandwill.com, 20% off at trustandwill.com. Also want to let you know about one of the first events I'll be speaking at in 2026. It's called Life or Death Con. It's happening January 22nd in Washington, D.C. This is not just another event. It's a rising movement to take back our communities, town by town, church by church, home by home, and restoring the heart of America's places and traditions of faith, family, freedom, and more. And then you can see some of the speakers lined up along with our good friend Seth Gruber. You see Megan Basham, our good friend there, Abby Johnson, and more. I'll be sharing the stage with some of the most powerful voices on our side. Leaders who don't just talk, they also take action. So if you care about truth, if you care about life, if you believe the battle is far from over, then you need to be there. So what are you waiting for to get in the fight? Head to lifeordeathcon.com right now to reserve your spot. And don't forget to use the promo code Steve to get 20% off when you do. Life or Death Con, as in convention. Lifeordeathcon.com, 20% off with the promo code Steve at lifeordeathcon.com, promo code Steve. All right, today's show. The high holy days are over, which means the prophet of woe and lamentation is well rested. The spite has been stored up in ample amounts over the last few weeks, and I am sure he will dispel that overture with maximum prejudice when Daniel Horowitz rejoins us here for the final segment of the show today. Looking forward to that. Also, at the bottom of the hour, we'll play your game, our game too, everybody's favorite game. Buy, sell, or hold. But before we do all that, let's get started with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Better Than Expected. Apparently to the Trump administration, they're not worried about the turbulence in the Israel-Hamas ceasefire we saw over the weekend. Vice President J.D. Vance visited Israel yesterday.
We are 1 week into President Trump's historic peace plan in the Middle East, and things are going, frankly, better than I expected that they were. I want to say that there is this weird attitude I've sensed in the American media and the Western media where there's almost this desire to root for failure, that every time something bad happens, that every time that there's an act of violence, there's this inclination to say, oh, this is the end of the ceasefire. This is the end of the peace plan. It's not the end. It is, in fact, exactly how this is going to have to happen when you have people who hate each other, who have been fighting against each other for a very long time. We are doing very well.
Let's go back over the weekend to a No Kings protest where this guy riled up the crowd against immigration and customs enforcement.
You gotta grab a gun. We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out.
Cut to yesterday morning in completely unrelated news, and the Department of Homeland Security says a Los Angeles ICE operation resulted in a suspect using his vehicle to attempt to ram immigration and customs enforcement agents. Officials opened fire on this suspect who received non-fatal injuries. Footage has emerged of Zohran Mamdani, NYC mayoral candidate back in 2019, speaking about Muslims in the Big Apple.
There's still, this illusion, and it's partially a result of settler colonialism, that all of us can become New Yorkers, that all of us can settle into the city. And yet there would be these moments where I would be reminded by someone whose intent was to tell me that you do not belong. And one of those first moments was on 9/11. In these moments, the sense of not knowing where home is they're amplified by what I would see around me.
Mehdi Hassan, your thoughts?
I think that if you can play church bells, you can pray the call to prayer. We are as American as anyone else.
Learning Arabic today. Today's phrase is the we in that sentence also murdered 3,000 people on 9/11.
إن كلمة نحن في تلك الجملة هي.
Gallup's party ID tracker shows Democrats have a lead of 48-41 in the third quarter of 2025. In the third quarter of last year, Republicans enjoyed a lead of 47-46 in Gallup's party ID tracker. In Virginia, it remains a relatively tight race in the Attorney General campaign between assassination-loving Democrat Jay Jones and Republican Jason Miyares. There is some polling indicating women in Virginia favor Jay Jones. Our Blaze TV colleague Sarah Gonzalez joined the Will Cain Show yesterday to talk about why that might be the case.
I think that when you can convince women to that it's a good idea to kill their baby in the womb and that's somehow liberating them, I think you can convince them of anything, including just sort of memory holding a person's threat or, wish for someone's kids to be killed. I just think that that's the short of it, right? Third wave feminism is a cancer on our society. I think we all know that. But more importantly, I would like to say, Jay Jones, at least this is mask off. We see who these people are. They are really actually just saying that they're okay with this candidate, with the threats to violence. And I'm going to say, great, at least we know what we're up against.
The House Judiciary Committee has criminally referred former CIA Director John Brennan to the DOJ for making false statements to Congress. The criminal referral centers on testimony Brennan gave to Congress in 2023 and argues that Brennan's comments about the CIA's role in investigating the 2016 election and whether or not the Steele dossier was a critical piece of intel were actually untrue. In Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis says getting rid of property taxes in the Sunshine State isn't just a talking point.
So we got to put it on the ballot, and the voters have to approve it. It's a constitutional issue in Florida. It's not something the state derives revenue for. It's a local issue. We're trying to focus on Florida homeowners and their primary resident, people that have Airbnbs or whatever, that's separate. Yeah. But your personal home, you shouldn't rent it from the government. You should own it. And, you're paying taxes for 50 years. But even for young families, it's become very difficult across this country to make ends meet. Wouldn't it be great if they were able to have home ownership without having the burden of property tax that? So that's coming to a ballot near you in November of 2026, and we need 60% of Florida voters to do it. And I think it's going to be very popular, but it's also something that's not an easy bar to reach.
And finally, stop sending me this Babylon Bee story, please. Man replaces personality with a new smoker. Joke's on you, I never had a personality to begin with. And that's what happened while we were away.
Very nice. All right, let's get to a couple of the items in Aaron's montage. Let's start with the vice president's comments yesterday over there in Israel, saying, hey, things are going well in Gaza. You have to consider the historical significance of what has been represented between these two cultures for a long time. Things are exactly where they want them to be, meaning those that are trying to pursue peace in the region. Before I give any maybe explanations of what this could or could not mean, I'm just curious to get you guys' just knee-jerk reactions to that messaging, because we have pointed out before, when it comes to messaging, J.D. Vance is the friggin' Terminator, right? Okay, so. But there's a reason why there are how many Terminator movies? Because every now and then, even the Terminator misses, right? Nobody's perfect, okay? Not to mention, people like to make money. So that's the other reason there's so many Terminator movies. But is he on target with that messaging? What do you think, Todd?
As long as it's backed by Trump's words of a couple days ago, where he says, you either agree to keep to the terms of the agreement or we're wiping you out. Mm-hmm. As long as that's reality, and I've got no problem with that. I mean, you're trying to keep everybody at the table for as long as possible until that time comes. It's a incredible responsibility. It's a necessary one, but to say that, listen, whatever you have left of your lives, we're going to end that too. So I've got no problem with this as long as that is real.
Aaron?
Couple of things. The fog of war, whatever you want to call it. It's been easier, not easy, but easier to discern just kind of looking as much as you can at events as they take place and not the spin from media coverage of those events. It's been easier to discern that when it comes to the Israel-Hamas conflict than it has been with the Ukraine-Russia conflict. For whatever reason, I think there's probably more media in Israel in the midst of that conflict, I should say, than there has been at least reliable media in Ukraine. And what is reliable media? You want to get back to me on that?
Yes.
You sure can.
Yes.
But there's just been more of it, I guess you could say. So, one, just based on what we have seen, now you can dispute whether or not this is an accurate depiction of events over the past several days. There was some sort of incident where Israel felt that the ceasefire had been crossed over, had been violated, so they responded in kind. They also responded by cutting off humanitarian aid to that area. Then they quickly, without much of an explanation, they reversed course. The ceasefire was back on. Humanitarian aid was back on. Is that kind of the course of events as you guys have seen it? Yep. So that's the backdrop of this, okay? The second thing I'd say is we have to keep looking at this, I think, in the context of it's not really about what Hamas wants. They've given up all leverage. It's really about whether or not they're willing to continue to live somewhat peaceably. It's really about that or getting wiped off. Because I think it's very clear at this point that even the Qataris, they really don't have much. Saudi Arabia really don't want to play ball with these guys. So you have to look at it from that backdrop. So with all that being said, as long as it's backed up by continued going along with the terms of the agreement, and yes, it's going to be turbulent, the Trump administration doesn't really seem that bothered with what went on over the weekend. I think there's no panic that I see there whatsoever. So I think that messaging is right on the money, so long as Todd just said, it is backed up by guarantees that if this is violated in any meaningful and long-term way, and long-term in this context means days on end, that Hamas is going to face the final existential threat.
Agree with everything you just said there, especially your connection to Todd's comments. And I'm not surprised the Trump administration is not concerned, because the guy running the Trump administration, his core worldview is art of the deal and negotiation and leverage. And as Aaron pointed out, and Todd as well, Hamas has none left. The hostages, the living hostages, are back home. When the last one was returned, that was their last piece of leverage. Now, what could happen here, and I want to take you back to ISIS and their origins. Remember how ISIS was formed. ISIS was formed by people within Al-Qaeda, who's the terrorist organization that pulled off 9/11. ISIS was formed by people within Al-Qaeda who did not think Al-Qaeda was radical enough. And so they became a splinter group, a breakaway group, and formed their own terrorist organization that was even more savage than Al-Qaeda. And we saw that when they, were strolling through Syria, when they attempted to stroll through other countries in the Middle East, and they've all been wiped out. Gentlemen, your thoughts on the possibility there could be however many humans left within the high command of Hamas may truly desire that life is preferable to death at this point. But there could very well be splinter cells within their own organization who,
once it sinks in, that they're alone.
Yeah, who are not wearing suits to work and appearing on Al Jazeera and Arab television pretending to be the softer side of Sears, but are the true, absolute savage believers in this, who may just view this as death by cop, death by IDF, martyr death by IDF. And that could very well be what some of these disruptions of the ceasefire, the minor ones we've seen thus far, could very well be those kinds of incursions. And I could see those actually escalating. I mean, I've got to believe somewhere there is within the structure of Hamas, there's an ISIS-like splinter cell, a particular leader or two, who thinks that now, the high command has just got scared, lost their nerve, and sold out to the Zionist, conspiracy, and they are trying to rally people within their grassroots to go ahead and march out there and just get obliterated by violating the ceasefire. Thoughts on that?
Well, that's as likely to happen as anybody else, but who are we to judge? I mean, that's the lay of the land in that area of the world. All we have to do is pick up our Bible to understand how long that's been going on. But that's also the human condition. I mean, in Aaron's montage, we've got a guy just in the middle of the street say, "Get your guns and shoot ICE." Charlie just died a little bit more than a month ago. Our cities are being burned down. Yeah, there's no utopia. And we're far further from even approaching one than certainly any time in my adult lifetime and in all of American history. We are just absolutely broken. So the fact that it's going on over there is not even remotely unique. The world is aflame. Human beings are just not clear on what the point of much of any of this is. And that's only going to lead to a level of perpetual disarray. I mean, what can we possibly moor that situation to over there where we can say somehow somebody can play the tune absolutely perfectly where what you suggest that reality is taken off the table, Steve? We can't even take it off the table here in America.
I would, if I wanted to be very cynical, Aaron, I could say that we would welcome such a development. These folks, these elements, these splinter cells are absolutely welcome to run out into the open and meet the Vestal virgins that won't be waiting for them in the afterlife, and do us all a favor by coming out of their spider holes.
I think this is almost a guarantee that something like this, now how frequent, I don't know, but it's almost a guarantee that something like this will happen, because when it sets in that you have been fighting this holy, righteous war from Hamas's perspective for years now, and then all of a sudden you are abandoned and alone, you are going to get lashing out like that. And I think something else that we're going to find out, and this is going to sound heartless, and I don't mean it to, depending on your perspective, we are going to truly find out what the civilian population of Gaza, air quotes Palestine, what they are actually like. Are they truly innocent bystanders? Were they really, truly just taken over by forces here? They didn't actually elect the Hamas to leadership, a few years after the two-state solution came into being here, or are they really truly sick of the violence? That's, I think, something else that we're going to find out here, because if it's the latter, if they truly are just we played footsie with Hamas for a while and now it's completely destroyed our way of life, that could have a mitigating impact on whether or not we see some of these splintering cells.
What I do disagree with that came out of the administration is I wholeheartedly disagree with Jared Kushner's comments from a couple days ago. Did you guys see these?
I don't think I did.
That the Israeli people now have a responsibility to come up with a sustainable way of life for the Palestinians in Gaza. No, they don't. The Arab world does. Not to mention, if the Israelis attempted some kind of Marshall Plan there, it would be met with terrorism. It would be seen as some kind of an attempt, a subversive Zionist takeover of their way of life. It's got to come from people who represent their own worldview. Just a variation of a similar thing. It's got to come from people who look like them, talk like them, worship like them. It cannot. They would not. There is nothing other than their own extinction. There is nothing the Israeli people could offer those who believe they belong to a made-up place called Palestine. There is nothing the Israeli people could offer them other than their own extinction that they would accept, which is why we're here. We're here. All right, we're looking at Gaza as a parking lot because of this, because this is true, because of what they did on October 7th, because the Israelis, going back to 2008, gave Palestinians autonomy and their own place in the region, and this is how they were repaid. There is nothing the Israelis could offer them. They would just view this as either an act of weakness that Allah is still with them. Look at how the sniveling pig Jews grovel. Even in their supposed victory, they are still, Allah is demanding and bringing them to heel, right? They would look at it like that. Or they would look at it as some form of subversive act to extinct them. They would not receive it. This isn't the end of World War II, And even though you had countries like Germany and Japan taken over, Germany and Italy taken over on a temporary basis by fanatical movements, there was a long-standing cultural affinity between those nations and the nations that defeated them in World War II that went back centuries, called Western civilization. I mean, Italy fought on the side of the Allies in World War I, for example. No such affinity has ever existed here, nor can it exist. The worldviews are not reconcilable. An accommodation can exist, provided Arab nations, like I said last week, provided these Arab nations see themselves first and foremost as Arab and not Muslim, then an accommodation can be found. And that's how we've gotten as far as we have. But ultimately, Jared Kushner is incorrect. The Muslims would not accept those kinds of overtures from the Israelis. It would not be received as any form of détente, but either weakness or subversive attempt to invade. It's got to come from the other Arab nations in the region.
Agreed.
Let's go to Sarah Gonzalez's comments, if I could. And you know, it's funny, Sarah, our colleague and our great friend here, Sarah, who's already booked for our year-end edition of the Deace Group again, coming up here in about 2 months. She is mirroring your comments about trannyism. And you started saying this right as tranny madness was ascendant 2019 or so when it started taking off as a social contagion. And you said this a lot heading into the scamdemic. Listen, if a society will fall for this, it'll literally fall for anything. Mm-hmm. The system is selling it, right? And she's picking up a similar theme when she just says, listen, if women are willing to be sold on going against their primary function and reason for being. It is the primary function and reason for being. Did I say only? Did I say singular? Did I use those words? No. But is it the primary function and reason for being? I mean, the primary responsibility of any species is to do what? Perpetuate itself? That's the primary function of any species. Can we possibly do that without women? Can we possibly do that? No. All right. So it is the primary function of women to perpetuate the species. It's not the singular. It's not the only, but it is the primary. As a subset of our species, that's why there's women for that. Primarily. Not only, but primarily. And what Sarah is pointing out is when you violate that old magic to the point that you concede this term reproductive freedom, if you're committing an abortion, you've already reproduced. That's why it's called murder. You've already reproduced a person. All of us here agree that a woman has a right to determine whether or not she is going to consent to sex, right? Because if they don't consent, everyone here on this show calls it rape and thinks that ought to be a capital offense, correct? Correct. But if she's conceived a child, then the reproduction has already occurred. It's akin to a murderer saying, well, I mean, I've got reproductive freedom over you, and I don't want you to reproduce, so I'm going to murder you before you do. We would call that murder because that's a person. Similarly, that's a person in the womb. So when a woman commits that murder, it's not reproductive freedom, it's murder. She's already reproduced. And Sarah's point there on Fox News that there's just something that happens uniquely to the soul when it consents to going against its wiring. It's the same thing. The trannies are doing the same thing. Like, what's the first biological fact said about any human being is it's a boy, it's a girl, right? Something innately disturbed emerges when you consent to going against en masse in a society. That doesn't mean that every single person that struggles with gender identity is capable of murdering Charlie or any of us. It doesn't mean that every single woman that's ever listened to the lies of the spirit of the age has a permanent stain on her soul that can't ever be overcome. That's not what it means. But collectively as a society, when these things become sanctioned within a society, then yes, collectively, the results speak for themselves. And to allow a social contagion like trannyism out collectively, we've all suffered through the recourses of that in the last couple of years. And to allow a social contagion like ritualistic child sacrifice to be unleashed, we've all suffered under the ramifications of that for decades, or what Sarah aptly described as third-wave feminism. But here's the thing, we need to understand why Sarah's right. Everything she said is exactly spot on. But I need to explain to you why she's correct. There is a reason that the enemy has attempted to install ritualistic child sacrifice into every human society that has ever lived. Ever lived. There is some anthropological record of some form of ritualistic child sacrifice that has occurred in every single human culture we've ever been able to trace. And we see it even in our own. Because it does do something unique to us as a species. All sin is evil in the eyes of God in terms of its violation of his law and order. But not all sins are equal in terms of what they do to the actual sinner. Paul even says, for example, sexual sin, of which I've got a lot of experience with, sadly, sexual sin uniquely penalizes the sinner because you are sinning against your own body. You're turning your body against your own conscience. On purpose. On purpose, you are pitting your body, your flesh, against your conscience. You're incentivizing that war between your soul and your own flesh. There is something unique that happens when we give ourselves over to mass murder. If I took this out of the context of women having abortions and just said, go interview serial killers in a maximum security prison and see if you don't see something missing from their eyes, something missing from their countenances, something missing from their consciences, no one would question me on such a thing, right? Correct? It's exactly what I'm talking about. And you can see the sociopathic tendencies. I shout my abortion now. I am proud of it. I want to spread it. My conscience is seared. You know who also says my conscience is seared? And I'm anxious to tell my side of the story. Serial killers say things like that. There is something unique. It's why, for example, in your liturgical system, remind me, is it grave, mortal, murder? It's the highest class of sin, but I can't remember which. Venial, mortal is the highest class. Why? Because you guys understand what I am talking about. The unique staining of the soul that it does. And it's why women who have undergone abortions or succumbed to these lies desperately need the gospel. Because without it, the odds that you'll succumb to the darkness, we have just lived through all this in the last election. One political party made the entire basis for why you should vote for them are, hey, let a bunch of guys who don't care about you blast off in your womb and then go kill the kid afterwards. That was literally their number one talking point. Their number one issue they ran on. They even put ritualistic child killing, mobile units out in front of their own convention as almost their own version of a liturgical rite. The enemy understands this. That's why he has attempted to install ritualistic child sacrifice into every human society that's ever existed. There is something about it that uniquely what it does to us in our already fallen states, to dig in our heels all the more against the grace and revelation of God, the Creator. What better way can you express original sin and satanic rebellion of ye be like God than to look at the Creator and say, no, I will determine who gets created, not you. Thoughts on that?
Bravo to Sarah. Unfortunately, this dovetails with what we talked about just earlier this week with even though conservatives aren't slouching towards Gomorrah as fast in terms of procreation, they're still slouching towards Gomorrah. So C.S. Lewis was keen on, if you are just fractionally different at the beginning from the truth, sooner or later you keep going in that route, you're this far away. You have to turn and go back. In this case, it means the exact opposite direction. Any Christian who understands his duty must ultimately get on this procreation bandwagon and do the opposite of this death cult.
What did you think Christ or chaos means?
Right.
Vibes,
yes.
Essays, screeds.
Preach. That'll preach right there. Should have just gone to you and saved the audience the last 5 minutes of time. All right. Buy, sell, or hold is next. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, you can buy gold and get free silver. That's right, for every $5,000 purchased from BIRCH Gold Group this month in advance of Veterans Day, they're going to send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. Look, gold is up over 40% since the beginning of the year, and BIRCH Gold can help you own it by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Plus, they'll send you free silver honoring our veterans on qualifying purchases. And if you're a current or former military, BIRCH Gold, they've got a special offer just for you to say thank you for your service. They are waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, many of which followers here on the Steve Deace Show, I encourage you to diversify your savings into gold. Just text my name, Steve, to the number 989898. Text Steve to 989898 for a free info kit on gold and claim your eligibility for free silver with a qualifying purchase before the end of the month. Again, text my name, Steve, to 989898. Do it today. Text Steve to 989898. And with that, it is now your turn. It is now your turn. It is called Buy, Sell, or Hold. That's one of our favorite segments each and every week. We'll get through as many of these as we can. What remains, we will do in the overtime today for Blaze TV subscribers at blazetv.com/Deace. Go there today, become a subscriber at a discounted rate with the promo code Deace so you don't miss today's overtime or any of the other exclusive shows the whole network does for subscribers every day. blazetv.com/Deace. But until then, we're going to get through as many of these as we possibly can. And here's how it works. You guys have submitted to Aaron your proposition. Todd, you and I have not seen a single one of these. In the moment, you and I are going to decide, are we going to buy it? Are we going to sell it? We can, since the game is called Buy, Sell, or Hold, you are permitted to use your hold. You are permitted to do that. All right? But it's considered a self-own. It's considered a self-punking. And in the age of defense secretaries who are literally riding Top Gun, shotgun, and jet fighters, it's especially girly, man. Fair?
It is the mortal sin of this show, per your previous discussion.
So therefore, it requires an appropriate punishment, correct? If you use your hold this week, then you need to find out how Lindsey Graham is taking care of the young men in his office who are furloughed during the shutdown, and what they're doing to make sure that they are taken care of.
No.
You've got to get to the bottom of that, brother.
No.
I'd like to see Sean Hannity ask Lindsey about that tonight on Fox. Let's get to the bottom of that bad boy. What do you think?
No.
No?
No.
Let's get to the bottom of Buy, Sell, or Hold. Aaron, go ahead.
All right. I asked for the hottest submission, so Grow My Own Freedom says this. My adopted stray runt male cat that was just dominated and mounted by the neighborhood tomcat was way more ashamed and disgusted and horrified about his experience than Lindsey Graham would have been in a similar human situation. Buy, Sell, or Hold.
We're starting here. This is the opening salvo. This is the tone setter. We're starting here. I like it. I'll buy. I like it. I'm not.
The cat's more ashamed. This is what we're saying. Buy.
Yeah, I'm completely. Listen, you can't possibly shame Lindsey Graham. You can't. Unless you're female. Human female.
How many lives did that cat lose from that shame, do you think?
No. Indeed. Indeed, sir.
Next, we go to High Plains Remnant, who says the best part about the No Kings protest last weekend is at least USAID is no longer paying for them.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'll buy. Did you see the list of all the various organizations who are paying for this and subsidizing these things
I
around?
did not.
Yeah, just totally organic, totally spur of the moment. You bet. See, here's the difference between us and them on the protest front, okay? Our protests are organic. You couldn't get our donors. I mean, our donor class, by and large, isn't funding that kind of stuff. They're freaked out by it. So for example, during the Tea Party years, our protest that we had, the Tea Party protests around the country, they were organic. And then what happens is once an organic, this is how the right operates. Once an organic movement forms, then it'll be sold out by its grifters. We form organic movements on the right every time. and then they're sold out by their grifters. Okay. On the other side, the entire thing is unorganic and a grift from the very beginning. That's the difference. Yeah. Yes. But in the end, we end up in the same place. Non-organic, no longer do we have organic movements, and they just get sold out by their grifters. And that's kind of the so-called unibrow or uniparty phenomenon there for you. Yeah. And happy Wednesday.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this is up with people.
At least our insurgent movements at first are organic. They are. But then the minute they gain any foothold whatsoever, the clock is ticking. The hourglass gets turned over until the sand runs out, because grifters aflame and like a moth to a flame will eventually turn that movement out like Lindsey turns out the male members of his congressional staff.
All right, we go to Brutus Maximus, who says, sorry, Todd, it's sports bro time. Top TV network live sport event theme songs. Round Ball Rock, 1990s NBA on NBC. Are they back on NBC again?
They are.
Did I see that?
Yeah. I saw Clay Travis was citing his Forbes or somebody saying that NBC is going to lose $1 billion a year on this. What? Everything about the NBA, not just the WNBA, the league itself the parent league has to be a political construct. Could you imagine when we were kids, networks just taking $1 billion a year losses for sports leagues? They bought them because they made money. Now they are just overpaying for them, and when they don't, it's mind-boggling. It has to just be because of the league's political bent. It has to be, and it's just a subsidy. It's not even a contract.
What else are they going to run? You just said a couple days ago, when's the last time you watched a show? I mean, they're taking a loss on everything, which is why they're doing like these bringing back game shows, because they're relatively cheap to produce.
Yep. So I assume we're talking about the John Tesh theme here.
Basketball. Give me the ball because I just want to dunk it.
Yeah. So the John Tesh theme is great. You bet.
Olympic fanfare and theme on NBC.
Actually, ABC created that originally in the 70s, but I'll buy.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, that's been ABC created that originally in the 70s. It's great though. It's a great theme for sure. I'll buy.
The NCAA basketball tournament song on CBS.
Now, which one? Because they've all been great. We used an older version for Marxist Madness last year, which is my favorite version, but they have a new one now. But
in fact, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'm going to sell on that.
Okay.
Monday Night Football theme.
Iconic. Yeah. Dun, 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 do, 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 do. It's iconic. Yeah, all these are iconic to some degree.
Both NFL on CBS football themes, although the 90s version is better.
I mean, listen, the greatest intro music that's ever been done for a sporting event is the college football theme that CBS debuted in 1987, and they've kept it the same ever since. That theme is John Williams-esque magnum opus, incredible. You cannot, with the possible exception of the Olympic theme, if you wanted to create a theme that belonged hand in glove with the sport that it's introducing, the CBS college football theme that they debuted in 1987, and for years the SEC lost their minds when CBS gave up the SEC for the Big Ten because they thought that was their theme. It wasn't. They actually had this theme before they got into the SEC. They've had it going back to 1987. It's an incredible theme. It really is. It's a march. Like, it's a college football fight song. It really is. And the Olympic theme. Those two are the most tethered to the sports that they present, in my view.
And finally, college football on ESPN, the mid-2000s edition. I agree that was good. It's not good anymore.
Yeah, agreed. It's way better than what ESPN does now. Agree with that. If I was the SEC, I'd tell them to go back to that stuff. Todd, your thoughts? Overall, I'll buy the list.
Soap operas for men are powerful forces. True.
So is that a buy then?
Yeah, buy.
Okay.
Could mark it down as a hold. Drum Foo says the only thing Tom Homan is afraid of is Steve in a free hugs shirt.
Well, that's probably true. I mean, that was one of those moments.
Has your correspondence continued since then? Has there been any?
I thought typically you waited for the man to call on you first, right?
Is it tomorrow yet?
We need USAID to sponsor this segment, apparently. Subsidize this segment. Oh, yes. That was a moment. That was a moment.
Elliot Evans says Halloween is a Christian holiday, and it is a big error for us to cede this to our fallen culture like so many other things.
I'll let you tackle this one first.
Well, it is, but I mean, we cede everything else. I mean, there's other. There's like 2 lesbians down the road from me have a baby graveyard right now. I mean, there's no plans on fining them. I mean, heck, I'm more likely to get fined for not cleaning my sidewalk in 24 hours than they are for that. I mean, we just don't stand up.
It's not really Halloween in some pockets of our neighborhoods. It is a day to celebrate the most visceral forms of Satanism, basically.
But I don't like, we were butchering children in hospitals, cutting their body parts off. And everyone's like, oh, well, love is love. I mean, do you know how broken we are as a people? It shouldn't be shocking at all that Halloween is what it is right now.
So there's always going to be Protestant Catholic divide about the origins of Halloween and whether it should still be practiced or not. And there will be divide within Protestants about that as well. Sometimes the Reformation dispelled with liturgical and ecclesiastical elements of Catholicism because they thought it was in clear violation of sola scriptura. And then sometimes they just did so because they didn't want to be associated in any way, shape, or form with Rome, right? And that's going to come out of any kind of a splinter or insurgent movement. In my view, though, I will buy this regardless of whether you think it has a Christian or pagan origin, simply because, as I've said for years, we complain every year at Christmas about the secularizing of our holiday. Even if you believe this is Satan's holiday, I don't know why we can't turn around and do the exact same thing to the darkness. So the darkness wants to make it about the stuff that Aaron talked about. Dress your kids up in them, as great heroes, as the most beautiful princesses, as beams of light, and send them out into the neighborhood, to be a light shining in the darkness. I really don't know. And in fact, almost all of the traditions that we hold dear or understand is after the early church era, almost all the traditions that we hold dear were originally pagan in origin. And then the church came in and said, yeah, we're retconning that. You're out. We're the urban renewal program and we're doing it this way. And this is what it means instead. So I don't see why we can't do the same thing where this is concerned. And I've said that for years.
Next, we go to Auburn Tiger, who says, if America is going to again be a Christian nation, America must militarily fight against persecution of Christians around the world. This doesn't mean bringing them to America or nation building. You want me to read that again?
No, I'll sell. I'm not unsympathetic to it, but there needs to be a level of realpolitik about what you can accomplish. I mean, just war theory, it applies here. The fact that Christians are being persecuted somewhere does not mean that America going in with military force can somehow reclaim the situation and stabilize it. And there's other factors therein. So it's just not an automatic for me. It's like I would be open to considering it.
So I just watched a film about how Russia is going after evangelical churches in Ukraine. And the film claims specifically that Russia is doing so because evangelicals cannot be so easily co-opted into a Russian Orthodox centralized church because of their belief that Scripture is ahead of the church. And so specifically because of that, Russian forces are looking to exterminate and persecute evangelicals in Ukraine. Let's assume everything in this movie is accurate and it's occurring. About 2% of Ukraine is evangelical. About 2%. About 2%. Should we risk a full-scale war with the country with the largest nuclear arsenal in the world over a full-fledged persecution of 2% of the population.
Is what I'm saying.
And I'm going to tell you right now, my answer to that is no.
You have to do the math.
It's a resounding no, in fact. It's a resounding no. It's not to mention, love knows no greater man than this, that a man would lay down his life for his friends. And if you're an evangelical in Ukraine asking the world to risk thermonuclear war because Russia burned your church down, I think you're on the wrong side of the discussion here. I really do. I just don't agree with that math. I just don't. So I'm going to sell. Do I think that we should take strong stances against it whenever we can? We should punitively look to punish it whenever we can. Sanctions and economic means, you bet. But when we start talking about, putting boots on the ground or fighting wars where this stuff is concerned, you have to do the math on this stuff. And the math, in many cases, is not going to be in our favor in that.
Yeah, let's try taking back Portland first. Also, by the way,
how about we do something about the fake Christianity here at home first? Like Mr. Who was the gentleman we had on yesterday?
Ben Zeisoff?
No, the video we played yesterday.
Oh, the
NFL guy.
The NFL guy.
Yeah.
Was his last name Price?
Yeah, Maurice.
Maurice Price. Okay. I'm probably more interested in, if we're gonna, put boots on the ground. I'm probably more interested in having us follow Maurice Price's example right now than dispatching the U.S. Army as a extension of the church, for example.
All right, one more before the break. This is from Sturdy Oak, who says, Todd finds it convenient the Wisconsin Badgers are so bad at football right now, so he can rail against college football without hypocrisy.
Absolute buy.
Hard buy.
You bet. Absolutely buying on this.
Obvious sell. Obvious sell.
Very coincidental timing to say I'm totally out the very year his team sucks as bad as they have since before Aaron was born. So very convenient.
Years.
That's the submission of the year right there, Aaron. I think that's the best one you've read all year. Your thoughts?
Agreed. Buy.
Just because I'm free
all
of
the
my,
buys.
No, just
buy to infinity. Thank you for exposing Todd's
free
idolatry.
Of my chains doesn't mean you get to glory.
And it turns out that Todd is trollable, very much so, in fact. And we will return in a moment. Back here with Hour 2, live and on demand here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you wouldn't mind, provided you're a podcast listener. A lot of you are. You're the biggest part of our audience. So please hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, follow. And that's how you'll know for sure that every time we do one of these episodes, it's right there in your podcast feed. And thank you as well if you've left us a 5-star review. Tens of thousands of you have done one of those. If you haven't yet left yours, we appreciate in advance if you do so today. Thank you to each and every one. And thanks to our friends over at Raycon as well. This part of the show brought to you by Raycon. It's Raycon's anniversary. And what better way to celebrate than with a deal on their Everyday Earbuds Classic? They're now 20% off, so it's the perfect time to get your hands on these. I struggle to get my hands on these. They don't tend to last long in my household when I get a new pair because my kids love them. Reliable, super comfy. Why? Because the noise cancellation. It's the active noise cancellation. It's the best in an affordable earbud. I've tried some unaffordable earbuds and it wasn't as good as what's in the Raycons. That's why our kids love them too. All right, so you can take them anywhere, and you're going to see why they've been a fan favorite around these parts since day one. The Everyday Earbuds Classic, loaded with upgrades now, like that active noise cancellation I just mentioned, multi-point connectivity, so that you can pair with 2 devices at once, and an ergonomic fit that actually stays put no matter what you're doing. right? How about the quick charge? 10 minutes gives you 90 minutes. 10 minutes of charge time gives you 90 minutes of playtime, up to 32 hours of battery life with the case as well. There's awareness mode. You can, that's perfect when you're out there walking the dog or running errands, so you're still in tune to what's happening around you without missing a beat of what you're listening to. There's a reason why over 3 million customers love Raycons, and they come with a 30-day happiness guarantee. So that if you don't love them, returns are so easy, you've got absolutely nothing to lose. So go to Buy Raycon, RAYCON, N as in Nancy, or now, buyraycon.com/Steve. Get 20% off the Everyday Earbuds Classic. Buyraycon.com/Steve. Buyraycon.com/Steve. All right, coming up at the bottom of the hour, the return, the glorious return of the prophet of woe and lamentation. Daniel Horowitz will be here with weeks of stored up vinegar and urine that he is ready to discreetly, of course, tastefully let loose of. Indeed. That's coming your way at the bottom of the hour. But first, let's get back to buy, sell, or hold. Aaron.
We'll continue on with Brian Rose, top 10 sitcoms of all time. I'm just going to take these all in one package here. The Andy Griffith Show at number 10, The Office at number 9, Married with Children 8, All in the Family 7, South Park 6, Simpsons 5, Cheers 4, MASH 3, Seinfeld 2, Friends 1, buy, sell, or hold.
I've got to sell. You can't have Married with Children. And listen, I know what happened at the end with the man's life. But The Cosby Show was the most watched sitcom in the entire history of American television. It's got to be on the list. It's got to be ahead of Married with Children. And I would even argue my all-time favorite, Family Ties, has to be on that list. The rest of that list is pretty good. And I understand why South Park is there. It's never really been my vibe for whatever reason. I've just never really gotten into it, but I understand why it is there. But to me, you have to have The Cosby Show on there. You have to. And I couldn't possibly do it without Family Ties. When we went to the White House this spring, you guys went out for a little nightcap. What did I do?
Well, yes, you stayed in, and when we came back,
I was watching. They had on one of the like Tubi type of channels there in DC. They were running a Family Ties marathon. I was in the middle of I was heading to the beginning of hour 4 of that when you guys came back. All right, so I would have Family Ties there, but you have to have The Cosby Show there somewhere, and I would put it in place of Married with Children.
Yeah, so.
Next, we go to Will Temples, who says only 1 in 100 adult males in this country do not watch pro sports as a pastime.
I think that probably is right. And if it's wrong, I don't think it's that far off.
I'll sell.
You're going to sell?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. You tell us why.
Only 1 in 100. As a pastime.
Don't watch it, he said. Don't.
Yeah, don't watch it.
Yeah.
There's more men than that don't. Which is not to say, I'm taking your words there. Don't occasionally watch a game if it's on, but as a pastime, as a dedicated hobby. I mean, this.
Oh wait, are we counting homos? Are we counting homos?
No, that's soccer is for them.
Okay, because if we're counting homos, then I would agree with Todd. Okay, but if we're not counting homos, then I think this number's spot on.
No. There's all kinds of men in this world. There's nothing inherently masculine about dedicating yourself to watching football. I actually heard this once on the Dan Patrick Show, and one of his the guys on the show said he met a guy and said he hasn't watched a football game in 30 years, and he couldn't. He's like, and he just said, my whole life is watching this. He said, I can't even compute that. That's the problem. The fact that we can't see the fact that there's all kinds of men who just go out, hunt, fish, read, do all kinds of other stuff. I don't know how high the number gets, but it's definitely more than 1.
I just asked Grok how many homos watch the NFL. Couldn't tell me. I think this whole question comes down to, are we counting the homos?
Grok had one job.
And one job. If we're counting homos, then the number is lower. If we're not, I think it's pretty close to spot on. I mean, And Dan Patrick found one guy. Dude is literally he's done the Olympics. He's done the NFL. He's done NBA finals. He's done everything. He did the most popular sports center of all time. He's been all over the world how many times? And he finally found one guy who hadn't watched an NFL game in 30 years. So I think that case actually makes my case for me. So if we count the homos, sell. If we don't count the homos and it's just all heteros, I'll buy.
I think sooner or later, we just have to look at the obvious math. We talked about the math before. The state our culture is in and how much football men watch. I think that's the actual math of the situation.
So you're saying it's 0 and 100, Todd?
What's 0 and 100?
The adult males who don't watch pro sports as a pastime. That's the argument you're making, isn't it?
No, it's not.
No, he thinks it's higher than that. It's higher than 1.
I think it's simultaneous. If it's 5, I'm right.
Oh, okay.
But I'm also saying that the fact that 95 do it as a pastime in a culture that sucks, and obviously so, and men don't do their duty, I think we should connect the dots on that.
Aaron, can I ask you a question, Aaron? How many of these kinds of submissions do you get? Or do you just like to pick these out because you know they set him off?
Yes, both. But I get a lot.
I respect either answer.
I reject probably 75% of them.
Okay. All right.
Next, we go to Ethan McClelland's band. I thought this was an interesting submission. Bands that are enjoyable to listen to, but not fun to sing along to in no particular order.
Okay.
AC/DC.
Oh, ain't that the truth?
Led Zeppelin.
Well, if we're talking Brian Johnson AC/DC, which is what most people know, then the answer, absolutely. Led Zeppelin, again, Robert Plant's vocal range is just generational, and it's almost impossible to match on numerous fronts. So I would agree with that too.
AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Cake.
I don't know what the hell that is.
I don't know Cake.
I couldn't tell you what that is.
Smashing Pumpkins.
So we're talking about Billy
Corgan.
Billy Corgan. Yeah, I mean, like if you like never want to have like a friendly conversation again, then just put your entire heart and soul into Bullet with Butterfly Wings and those vocals, and your chords will be shot, and you'll have an excuse to not speak to your kids or grandkids. So I'll buy on that. Yeah.
The Offspring.
I don't think the Offspring belongs on there at all. No way. No, that's not hard to sing along to at all. No way. I don't know what Cake is. I think the Offspring absolutely don't belong on the list. I think if we're talking Brian Johnson, AC/DC, that's 100. Robert Plant, that's 100. Smashing Pumpkins. So I'm 3 out of 5. Is that a buy or a sell, Todd? You decide.
I think it's a sell.
All right, I'm a sell. Okay. Interesting category though. That's one we haven't had yet. That's fascinating.
Next up, we're going to go to this one. William Jasper says Ilhan Omar gets deported by the end of Trump's term.
I mean, I would
sell.
I would look up to the skies and say, take me now. I'm good.
Guys, we just celebrated Diwali yesterday at the White House. Stop lying to yourself. How many idols must you all polish? See? That's your football brain talking.
Speaking of my football brain, the Lord offers me a choice. I get to witness one of these two things before the cataclysmic chest grabber that calls me home. Lions win the Super Bowl. Ilhan Omar gets deported. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to have to pray that one through. I mean, I'm going to have to pray that one through. That's a Hobbs choice right there. That's a tough one. Okay.
Cake, by the way, was the band that did, I think, Going the Distance. He's going for distance. He's going for speed. She's all alone. Whatever.
Okay. I think I know that song, I think.
You've heard it before. Both of you have heard that song before.
Okay. It sounded vaguely familiar. I just never heard of Cake. I had no idea what that was. I mean, I've ate a lot.
I'd heard of Cake, but then I couldn't figure out what songs from them I'd heard of. Joel.
I've ate a lot of cake. The Great Wall of Chocolate Cake over at, you and I ate at one at the airport coming back from somewhere recently. The chain Chinese place.
Oh, P.F. Chang's?
P.F. Chang's. The Great Wall of Chocolate Cake at P.F. Chang's is, I mean, I've ate a lot of cake.
Next. I just got a text from one of my buddies. He's in Barnes & Noble right now, and they have an entire section of books about magic and magic spells. Not like Harry Potter magic, like...
Oh, like occultic
yes.
ritual stuff. Okay.
Joel says, modern women would rather have a conjugal visit with Luigi Mangione than be in a relationship with a quote-unquote nice guy. I think modern lefty women, for sure.
Yeah, I think modern lefty women, it would be a buy.
Yeah, that's what I needed more. I'm going to sell, but if you amend to modern lefty women, I will buy.
So here's the thing. When we were growing up, we would run into young women who you were too nice, that kind of thing, right? But now we're on the other side of it, having raised daughters.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you see it now? I mean, do you have any of your daughters that had to, meet a terrible guy or two before they were able to? I wonder what Anna would say if she was here. Because I know she had a couple of relationships. She didn't think, obviously she's talked about them on her podcast that did not turn out well. I wonder, maybe I'll ask her that. Did you have to go through that before you were able to take a guy like Steve and find excitement in the nice, reliable, steady guy, who's out there to defend his country and defend his family? And that's about as exciting as it gets. That sounds pretty exciting to me as a dad, but I'm not a 21-year-old girl. Okay. I mean, I've never asked her that before. Maybe I should ask her that. Maybe we should have that conversation on the show sometime. I'd be curious. Right? Because you knew those kind of girls in high school a lot of times. Hey, you're too nice, or, I mean, one of my cousins, and she's probably listened to this, so forgive me, sister, because she's basically like my little sister. We were very close growing up. When I first met Amy, I asked her, I said, hey, how does this relationship turn out better than the other ones? You know what she told me? Don't treat her nicely all the time. That's what she told me. That was her advice. So there is something to this with young women to some degree.
Well, I think that says as much about the dads as the young women. I mean, there's a guy named me that got to decide who my daughters were and were not going to date, and I took that very seriously. So I don't think by definition you have to date some deadbeat to figure out. You shouldn't be dating any deadbeats at all. And, this says we just have to, they don't know. We have such a forfeit version of manhood these days. Girls don't even know what it looks like anymore. It's very, very comfortable, very sedentary, doesn't have a high standard for courage. So I get why the women are confused.
Do you think there is something to this, that what we are mistaking niceness for a lack of self-respect amongst the men?
Very possible.
Because women can see right through that very quickly. Now, they want a man with self-respect that will, from time to time, say no. But because there is either the nice guy with no self-respect over here, or the complete and total douchebag degen over here who actually does tell them no or treats them badly, there is this weird confusion that, hey, I'm mistaking being told no or not really being treated as I should be for self-respect, whereas over here there's a complete devoid of self-respect and a simp, basically. I don't want a simp.
There's a whole world out there that's, you don't have to, it's not Andrew Tate and it's not the guy with pronouns in his bio. You can choose that world, but many men, they honestly, they don't want to, because it's too much effort.
I think, I think women ultimately like to marry a guy that they know they can trust and rely to be there for them and their children. But I think you have to excite a young woman before she wants reliable. Let me put it this way. Reliable, maybe, but not boring. Thoughts? Reliable, but not boring.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes it's not just that you're nice, but you're also boring.
But most men are, most men these days are reliably boring. that's what they are. There's just they're very selfish. They're very me-oriented. They're not two shall become one oriented, and that goes both ways. Yeah, we got a lot of work to do.
I do think, looking at the trend lines, if we are permitted to do this, and I'm 52 now, so I don't know. But if we're doing this still 15, 20 years from now, somehow, looking at the trend lines, we're going to have to say way more about the women than the men. Because there clearly is, among the young men, some form of renaissance of traditionalism.
I don't think as much as you think there is.
It may not be as much as I think there is. It's a hell of a lot more than existed in the last few generations, though. All right? Which was let's run as far away from that as we possibly can. So it might be a 3. That's about 300% higher than it was the previous generations. We weren't sitting around at 19, 20 years old wondering about how we were going to rediscover traditionalism. We weren't having those conversations. So, and we're the only generation that voted for Trump in the last election. So I agree it's not as much as, I agree with you, but it's also way more than has existed in the last few. Way more. It's also way more than exists among the women. It may not be as much as we think it is. It's way more than existed in the last few generations, and it's way more than exists among the women. And at some point, that bifurcation line, something's got to give on that. Something has to give on that. Speaking of which, when living in a time where lies are easy, the truth is costly, and nowhere is that more devastating than in the battle for life. And it rages throughout the country every day. That's exactly what Natalia faced. Her first reaction to her pregnancy was, I've got to get an abortion. I've got to kill my kid, because that's the lie that she was told. But once she heard the heartbeat of her child via preborn, she knew that God wanted her to have her baby and that all things would be possible through him. Natalia chose life and was provided with love, support, and the resources that she needed. At preborn network clinics, this happens on average 200 times a day because of the support from people just like you, moms who are overwhelmed, pressured. They are threatened, and they're about to succumb to the spirit of the age. And then they suddenly see their child hear the truth and realize that they're not alone. Friend, that moment of truth costs just $28 to sponsor an ultrasound, and an ultrasound doubles a baby's chance at life. Not the time for silence, folks. This is the time for courage, a time for truth, a time for life. So give now. Dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby on your mobile phone. That's pound 250 keyword baby. Or visit preborn.com/Steve. Again, that's preborn.com/Steve. Make your tax-deductible donation today to preborn.com/Steve.
I've gotten the same variation of the following submission for several weeks now. I can't remember if it's the same account, but Vexed says, praying the blood of Jesus over people or situations is unbiblical. Jesus' blood was not shed for Aunt Jane's knee surgery or Joe's school day. Buy, sell, or hold. Yeah, that was my thoughts as well, but apparently.
Let me guess, you're also very concerned. Let me hold on to adjust my pocket protector. My Theo nerd pocket protector. Let me guess. A little too much celebrating of Mr. Kirk over there. Very concerned about turning him into an idol. And I'm here to make sure all policies are fulfilled.
Anonymously, of course.
Anonymously, of course. Yes.
Guys, Vexed is vexed.
I'm vexed. Very vexed. And my name's Steve. I'm vexed. I help me. Help me understand what life you are living. And I mean it. I really mean what I'm saying here. Not even for effect at all. Help me understand what life you're living, what timeline you exist in. That as you scan over and the landscape of spiritual threats, you settled on this one. You just, this is the one. Paul says to redeem the time, for the days are evil. This is time in your life. You're never going to get this time back. It can never happen ever again. And this was the looming demonic strongholds and specters of evil we're up against. But by golly, this is the one where you thought, I definitely think somebody must address this. I mean, say hi to Skolnick. You stopped wearing his pocket protectors in 86, man. All right? And take the damn tape off your glasses.
Can we
pray the blood of Jesus over your eyesight?
Can we pray the blood of Jesus over the angels dancing on the head of a pin? Can we pray the blood of Jesus over that?
For the record, you can pray the blood of Jesus over me in any way, shape, or form, because it's only by the blood of Jesus our prayers are even ever heard. So that's today's theological lesson.
Todd, is this a Catholic?
Is that a Catholic?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, if I had to guess.
Now, listen,
I know it's not a Catholic.
do pot. I will pot, meat, kettle, so I concede my point. It must start with the fact my guy is like going to viral conferences and
like, listen, we're praying the blood of Jesus over the Pope right now.
We got issues, okay, and I'd take those prayers. But this guy is, to be fair, this guy believes he's doing sola scriptura.
I don't think there's any question. I think that if I had to guess, Aaron, there's just a little too much Pentecostalism going on out there.
Yep.
Just a little too much. I'm here, and there's just a little too much of that going on out there. Just a little too much. Farmer Bill, Sheriff Mike, just a little too much as I adjust my pocket protector and make sure the tape on my glasses is firmly ensconced. You bet. You betcha. Get a job.
What is the psychology? And I'm asking seriously.
Let me guess. Your online discernment ministry.
What is the psychology of doing this kind of thing? Like believing you are the line in the sand on Sola, but
I'm the Sheriff Nottingham of Sola Scriptura.
But you're certain you have to do it anonymously. Like, how does that not wake these people up? Like, maybe if I won't put my name on it, maybe, just maybe, I might be more asshat than prophet.
More put together, Tua Tagovailoa's brain or these people?
Oh my God. What's he had, like 4 concussions or something? Yikes. I mean, guys, I just... I'm not. Yes. You win a lifetime supply of Skolnick pocket protectors. You did it.
Next we go to Danik Bain, who says John Bolton conviction would be the high watermark for deep state accountability.
Well, now it should not be the ultimate high watermark by any stretch of the imagination.
There are a number of people that I have seen who are either fans of or somewhat close to the Trump administration that speak as poorly and negatively of John Bolton as a John Brennan or fill in the blank Obama deep state harpy.
Well, I think one, they get to do that because Bolton's been identified with the Republican Party, so it's a way to deflect and not make it look like Trump is getting retribution against Democrats for what they did to him. Okay, so they feel it's a good rhetorical device to have him, to throw him overboard first and make him the symbol of this. But ultimately, it is people like Brennan and others who essentially helped conduct a coup via cable news and everything else for how many years during Trump's first term. So I would agree where the mark is now, Bolton is the high water mark, but the mark must go higher than that, in my view.
All the way to Biden and Obama.
Yeah, like who was actually running the auto pen, for example. Yeah,
I liked it, but let's do this. Well, I'll just say this. I liked Tracy Bean's explanation when she was on the Deace group on Friday for why Barack Obama is seemingly ever present all of a sudden, once again, doing media interviews. He's trying to outrun or outflank some of these prosecutions. I think that's as decent of an explanation as anything. Let's go to Michael Relicki, who says the odds that Michigan cheated to win the national championship is about the same odds the Chiefs have bought the refs. It's all one big mind game and shiny idol that owns us all.
I like how Chiefs is misspelled. I like that. I'll let you answer that.
Well, I gotta sell. I think that the Chiefs, particular quarterback, probably gets some Michael Jordan-esque favoritism, but like you're just saying, it's whatever you need, the degree and what the penalty should have been. Michigan did cheat. Is there any proof that the refs have been bought off by the Chiefs? So, yeah, that's silly.
I'm fine with his answer.
Next, Bullfrog was here, and so was Speedwagon. Says Chick-fil-A is the most overrated fast food place in the world.
In the world? In the world.
Sell that.
Have you tried the grilled chicken pretzel bun sandwich they have right now?
I have not.
It's pretty good.
Just the regular spicy chicken is like consistently just excellent. I do not know where you get. Have you been like? There's a lot of overrated.
I have no idea how you can possibly make this claim.
Yes.
I mean, I really don't. I don't. I really don't.
Chick-fil-A because they go out of their way to provide options that are legit gluten-free, and they use
the grilled nuggets are incredible.
Different fryer and things like that. So I'm not going to go this far. But man, I took Ben there sometime last year, got the grilled chicken nuggets with the waffle fries, and it was just kind of...
Really?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's just fine American living right there, if you ask me. Wow.
I'll tell you what is overrated in the chicken, canes.
Really?
I agree with you on that. I tried that. I'm like, what is everybody's deal with this?
My daughters love it.
Same with the women in my family the same way, and they finally got me to try it. I'm like, this cannot hold Chick-fil-A's jockstrap.
And I didn't say it's bad, but like these are just like chicken tenders.
Yeah.
Like, no, that place is absolutely overrated.
100% agree.
And I know I'm clearly in the minority, but I'm not a teenage girl there. So.
I'm with you. 100% agree.
Wish we had a Whataburger in Iowa.
Whataburger is phenomenal.
I got to get to one of those now.
Whataburger is good.
I'm going down to Arkansas here. I might just have to do this to figure this out.
I mean, whenever I'm in the Dallas airport, I look, am I in the terminal with the Whataburger every single time. Whataburger is great. All right, when we come back, speaking of greatness, he will return. The prophet of woe and lamentation is next. This is probably the most accurate email the show's ever received. And I hope my son-in-law is listening. Randy writes, I live in Minneapolis. Every homo here watches the Vikings. I know. We haven't called them the Vikings for decades for nothing. We know. This part of the show, brought to you by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. Every so often, something happens that reminds us just how fragile our freedoms are. We can't afford to take our rights for granted. Got to draw a line in the sand, and that's what our friends at Patriot Mobile have been doing now for more than a dozen years. And the truth is, there's only one provider out there that boldly stands in the gap for Americans who believe freedom is worth fighting for, and that's Patriot Mobile. Not only are they leading the red economy, they're also outpacing the competition in technology. They're one of the only carriers offering premium access to all three major U.S. networks that gives you nationwide coverage and service that you can count on. They also offer unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet backup, and more. Switching is easier than ever. Keep your number, switch your number, keep your phone, upgrade your phone. They'll make it happen for you. You can activate within minutes, home or office. And they'll customize a plan for you and your family and your needs at patriotmobile.com/Steve. And if you use the promo code Steve, you'll get started with a free month of service. A free month of service to get you started with the promo code Steve at patriotmobile.com/Steve. That's patriotmobile.com/Steve. And we welcome him back. The prophet of woe and lamentation has returned after a few weeks of the Jewish high holy days. And I would imagine you are rested. You are zen, and there's really not a lot of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz. I would imagine you're in a good place right now, my friend. How are you?
Well, Steve, if you only give me 20 minutes to make up for a month, then we might be in a good place, but it's great to be back.
Well, it's good to have you back, brother. Let's talk about the two biggest things that have happened since you were away. Let's start with the ceasefire in Gaza. The last remaining living hostages returned. Note, they were all male. There have been some incursions by Hamas, and I pontificated earlier in the show, reminding our audience, remember that ISIS came from Al-Qaeda. People didn't think Al-Qaeda was bloodthirsty enough. It is possible that some of these are subversive acts by the current Hamas leadership to violate the ceasefire. It's also possible that there are crazies in their own ranks that are like, I'd rather die by IDF, than have a peaceable Gaza, right? Okay. So your thoughts on where the situation there is now, and the deal that was made, and where you think it is going.
So look, there's a lot to say on this. I think the 30,000-foot view is that this is the same bullcrap that has been done for 50 years, that and I'm focused on an American perspective more than an Israeli perspective, because that's what we should be doing here, that just further sucks us into the region, putting us on the hook to babysit the nation building of the most violent people, as you mentioned, whether it's Hamas de jure, de facto, this version of Islamists, or they'll have 10 different heads that take turns hitting you and say it's the other guy violating it. But the point is, this is what Israel has been facing for 50 years. We help them, but then hamstring them, and then that harms them. So then we have to help them while helping the other side. We wanted to get away from this, not have to spend time, treasure, and talent on this. The only thing that it promises to do is that you would have hopefully a stronger ally to enforce it on the bad guys, but they violated it from day one and it wasn't enforced upon them. And then you will have another Democrat president. In other words, Hamas is not going to be able to rebuild that quickly and do another full-scale attack or start with the rockets again under Trump. And I don't think they would do it under Trump. But this is the problem Israel has all the time. You're going to have another Democrat president. That's when they'll strike. Then they're hamstrung. Then you get a Republican president in and you think it's going to change. But then, rinse and repeat. This sort of exchange 1 for 250 ratio of terrorists. Same old. I think what's critical at this point is going to be, is the emphasis on Israel, you better pull out of the other half, or Hamas and whatever Arab people, you better cut the crap out? What is the bigger focus? If it would finally not be on Israel, it would be somewhat of a change. I think the two impediments that I see is the Qatari influence and a little bit Turkey as well. UAE and Saudi Arabia themselves are very concerned about their involvement in it, so I think we should as well. And number two is, and this has been going on for a while, I'm scared of this becoming Operation Warp Speed, if you get the drift, where once you are so invested in an initial talking point, I saved millions of lives, no matter what facts on the ground negate that, well, I saved millions of lives because I can't tolerate the alternative. I brought peace. I defeated, or I disarmed jihad. They laid down their weapons, like Isaiah 11:6 and the leopard dwelling with the lamb in peace. And then when things work out to the contrary, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, there's only one thing you can do: make Jews pay for it in blood. That's always been done. That is my view after watching the first week, which is very disappointing. And I just feel like it's just too big to fail, which leads me to my final point, and I'll stop my filibuster here. My final point is, we need to be divesting from that area and our responsibility and involvement in it, not entrenching it. And AP reported, and the Pentagon did not deny it, that we are sending 200 troops there. Now, JD said it won't be in Gaza. Okay, well, then it's in Israel. Steve, I thought we were like, we don't want to fight Israel's war for them, right? When Israel was fighting Iran and we had nothing to do with it, like they were getting it done, Israel couldn't fight because somehow that involves us. But now when we send 200 troops directly to Israel to impose a ceasefire and worry about Gaza reconstruction, Somehow it's our business. So my bottom line is I don't give a flying F about Gaza. It's not in our interest. It's not in our interest to see it rebuilt. It won't be rebuilt. There won't be peace until, the verses in Isaiah and Zechariah get fulfilled. And let's stop with this utopian communism and let's focus on America first.
So what would happen if the U.S. did what you just said? What would happen next?
What would happen is it's what everyone on the right claims to want, but then doesn't want, which is that it's Israel's prerogative. You go deal with it. Why should it be our problem? Mm-hmm. It's so funny. I've gotten accused of, you're pro-Israel or you're for Israel first. I'm like, no, that's their responsibility to deal with it. It is not our responsibility. I mean, we got done with saying how Kabul and Baghdad urban renewal is not in our interest, and freaking Gaza is. Like, I don't understand why I should care about that. I don't understand why we are this invested in it. No aid for Gaza, no troops on the ground. I thought we all agreed with that.
If I had to guess, my best guess is the answer is that if we allow that to happen, if we just back completely out and let Israel do whatever it wants, that will stoke the kind of multinational resistance in the Arab world that we've seen in the past. Whereas opposed to what we see now, for example, is while Israel was turning Gaza into a parking lot the last 2 years, there was more argument about that among the American right here in the United States than what you saw in a lot of the Arab world. They just went on. There wasn't threats against Israel. No one was mounting armies, in Gaza to defend the Palestinian people. I mean, you got Jared Kushner saying that the Arabs don't even care about the Palestinian people, so Israel's going to have to figure out what to do with them now, right? And so the fear is if you just go ahead and let Israel act unilaterally in its best interest with no restrictions from the U.S. as a sugar daddy at all, that will then stoke the other side of the Arab Strait. That's what I'm confident would be the answer to your question that you just asked.
Just like, there's always World War III. Just like with Iran, there was going to be World War III. But the reality is that the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Jordan are to the right of the American government now on the Muslim Brotherhood. So
I think certainly they're to the right of certain elements among thought leaders on the right. I don't think there's much question about that. I mean, it was Israel and Gaza was more debated by Dave Smith and Josh Hammer than it was debated between King Abdullah and al-Sisi in Egypt and the House of Saud in Saudi Arabia and the U.S. government the last 2 years.
But
I don't
why
think there's any
isn't
question
Tucker
about that.
concerned about sending U.S. troops or aid to Gaza? Have you heard him complain about it? I thought we were supposed to disentangle from foreign engagements. That's what bothers me, because I generally support that. Especially and also there's this new moniker that we embarked on this foreign policy vision of the new right because we were sick of being on the hook for nation building, being the world's policeman. But somehow that transmogrified into being leftist, communist, anti-war is an end to itself, and even in some ways pro-Islam. So now we've come full circle that we have to get involved in Burma. We have to get referee between Kashmir and India. Witkoff is saying his next thing is to bring peace to Morocco and Algeria. So wait, before you know, we're just running around the world, imposing. I mean, that's literally the old Clintonian globalist, pacifist view that we need to get involved in order to bring peace, so to speak. And somehow we believe in these weird tropes where on the one hand, everyone on the right's like Islam is incompatible with the West. Okay, well, why? There's reasons for that. But then it's like, we're going to bring peace and stability, and we show prosperity to Gaza as if the Wahhabis and the Bin Laden clan weren't wealthy enough and still did their jihad. That's what I don't like. I don't like lying. What I would say is the lemonade that can and should be made with this is if this final restriction on Israel is used to do something different, namely to disentangle, to chart a course of independence, where, as I've said before, it's a two-way street. So it would be weaning Israel off of our dependency on our weapon systems, and then also our input restraining them. But as part of that, as you well know, we continue to give even greater amounts, at least if you put it together, to the Arab neighbors and Lebanon and Egypt and all that. So it's a puzzle, and you can't do it overnight. But I believe if we believe in the talking points that everyone on the right has roughly espoused the last 5 years, that would be our joint goal. Otherwise, this is just about screwing with Israel, the same way Republican and Democrat administrations have done for decades.
That was among the most Daniel Horowitz answers you have ever given in all the time I've known you. Daniel Horowitz, a Jew's Jew, came on the show, argued for disentanglement from Israel, to call the bluff of all those who have been claiming that that's what they have wanted by demonstrating, you're right, that's exactly what I am for, and here's what it would look like. Oh, wait, you're not for that. Then what are you really for? That was that was some 4D chess there, my friend. So let's get to the government shutdown. At the very least, this mythology that people like you and me have been fighting about our entire careers, planted by the likes of McConnell and his acolytes. If we can't ever do this, John Boehner had to negotiate against himself all the Tea Party years. Can't ever happen. We can't ever go to the brink. We have to back off, blah, 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 because we always lose a shutdown no matter what. Yeah, but that's been the gospel of the Republican Party since 1996, right? Okay. The year that Republicans actually retained Congress after they shut it down. All right. So the whole thing was a scam. I have no idea where it's going to end up, but at the very least, the fact that we're into 3 weeks of this, I saw one of your first posts when you got back. You said it's not even a top 5 story right now. Okay. At the very least, that shibboleth has been smashed. Okay. That we can't ever do this ever again. Doesn't mean we're going to end up with the outcome we like when this is all over. But at the very least, that McConnell narrative, I think, has been exercised for the last 3 weeks. Your thoughts?
It's nostalgic because we got here to begin with the Democrats griping about healthcare and its costs because of Obamacare and the fact that we didn't force a fight to the death in October 2013. So that was when Ted Cruz led that fight. It was maybe 17, 18 days or so shut down, but he was fragged by McConnell and these guys the entire time, where we said, look, the American people care much more about the cost of health care. And at the time, it was so unpopular. Democrats had lost everything in 10 and 12 on account of Obamacare. So this is right when it was about to be cemented. And we were like, look, if you don't do it then, it's going to be then this is going to be the only system we have, and it's going to be there forever. And we turned out to be right. But our point was, and back then they had control of the House. Republicans had the House. And we said, you had the ability to pass a bill funding the government minus the unpopular program and jam the Senate. No, we don't want to do that. Fast forward today, ironically, Democrats with control of nothing but a filibuster facilitating minority in the Senate, when this healthcare wasn't even the issue in front of us. It was just random. Republicans were the ones passing a clean CR. They're like, no, we need the Biden subsidies. Like, what? No one's even talking about that. And they believed and still believe that the unpopularity of premiums going up, or put another way, they are up, but not being shielded from them with the government handouts, is going to loom larger eventually than what anyone cares about the shutdown. And you know what? I think the Dems are right. And that's why we actually have to have a narrative to repeal Obamacare, not just to not extend the subsidies, but we have to deal with the problem, because otherwise Republicans are planning on giving in. So it might look like Republicans aren't capitulating on the shutdown itself, but they're already negotiating this. They will extend the subsidies in some way at some point. So the notion that if you have control of the House and or the Senate, that you can't take a popular issue like the Democrat president invading the country with open borders and say, we will not fund the invasion or whatever it is bull.
Mm-hmm. I've got 30 seconds. When we talk to you next week, is this shutdown still going?
Yes, but maybe not in 2 weeks.
Okay.
November 1st is the open enrollment for Obamacare, and I think that's gonna be a key tipping point.
Good to see you, brother. Welcome back. Thank you.
Yeah. Take care. Good to be back.
You bet. Gentlemen, quickly, your thoughts. Got about a minute.
Great point by Daniel at the end. I mean, right now, the Democrats are just such a joke that's the biggest reason why the Republicans have cover on this. But yeah, whether it's November 1st, whatever it is, when the status quo isn't the status quo anymore, yeah, Daniel's got a point. That has to be addressed.
You know, whatever reason they couldn't repeal Obamacare in Trump's first term, isn't this just a gift-wrapped opportunity to do so now? That's the way I see it.
Yep.
Apparently not the Republicans who are empowered to make such decisions.
Back at it again tomorrow. Until then, go hard. Romans 8:28.